Padre Pio, a name whispered with reverence, a beacon of hope in times of despair. On November 8th, 1952, at precisely 8 p.m., something extraordinary happened. Padre Pio himself witnessed heaven open wide. The Virgin Mary descended, not empty-handed, but carrying 8 pristine white roses. Each rose, a symbol representing an impossible favor, a divine blessing, waiting to be bestowed upon those who followed a sacred ritual. The number 8 wasn't chosen by chance. 8, its infinity on its side, a symbol of eternity, the 8th day after creation, the day of Christ's resurrection. And you're about to discover why November 8th at 8 p.m. creates a spiritual alignment, forging a portal, a direct connection to the very heart of Mary. Over the next few minutes, you'll hear the stories of 3 people, each receiving exactly 8 impossible favors in just 8 days. 1, a mother whose son lay in a terminal coma. Another, a man on the brink of financial ruin, owing 8 months of back rent. The third, a woman who hadn't spoken to her daughter in 8 long years. All 3 performed the ritual of the 8 roses on November 8th at 8 p.m. And all 3 received their 8 favors before the 8th day dawned. But there's a detail, a crucial detail, that changes everything. A detail that Padre Pio revealed to only 6 people before his passing. A detail that explains why some received the 8 favors and others received none at all. And this detail, it all comes down to the 8th rose. Yes, you'll place 8 roses before Mary. But the 8th rose, the one placed at the center, it must be chosen in a very specific way. Otherwise, the portal, it simply won't open. Have you ever asked the Virgin Mary for something impossible? Something that seemed so far-fetched, so out of reach, that you barely dared to believe it could happen. Perhaps it's healing from an illness, one the doctors have given up treating. Maybe it's the restoration of a marriage, shattered beyond repair. Perhaps it's a child who's strayed from the faith, one you can no longer reach. Maybe it's a debt so overwhelming, you see no way out. Or maybe it's that conversion you've prayed for years, that seems to never come. The truth is, we all carry impossible requests. And many of us have stopped believing they'll be answered, not from a lack of faith in Mary, but from spiritual exhaustion, from praying so much, asking so much, crying so much, and seeing no results. The soul, it becomes weary of waiting, and then comes the most dangerous temptation of all, to give up asking. But what if I told you there's a moment in the year when heaven is most attuned to your impossible requests, a moment when the Virgin Mary has special authorization from Christ to grant favors that at other times would be withheld, a moment when the number 8 aligns earth and heaven, time and eternity, supplication and answer? That moment is November 8th at 8 p.m. And what you need to do is so simple. It almost seems naive, but it was this simple ritual that saved 3 lives, restored 5 marriages, healed 7 terminal illnesses, and converted 12 souls. Between the years of 1952 and 1968, all documented in letters that Padre Pio kept personally, letters that now reside in the archives of San Giovanni Rotondo, letters that prove the ritual of the 8 roses, it works. Let me tell you the story of Catherine Lombardi from Naples, Italy. November 1956. Catherine was 42 years old and living through the worst moment of her life. Her only child, Joseph, just 9 years old, had fallen from a staircase at school. Hitting his head, deep coma, The doctors at Pellegrini Hospital said there was nothing more they could do. His brain was hemorrhaging severely. Even if he woke up, he would remain in a vegetative state. The medical recommendation was to disconnect the machines. Catherine refused. She had been a devout follower of the Virgin Mary since she was a little girl. Every day, she prayed the rosary. Every Saturday, she lit a candle for Mary. But now, facing the motionless body of her son, connected to tubes and machines, she felt that her prayers weren't reaching heaven. She felt a barrier, as if heaven was closed off. And that's when a nurse, a woman in her 60s named Ashley, pulled Catherine into a corner of the hallway. Ashley said, "Listen to what I'm about to tell you, and don't question it. Tomorrow is November 8th, at 8 o'clock tonight. You're going to buy 8 white roses, not 7, not 9. It has to be 8, white, not yellow, not red, white. You're going to take those 8 roses to the hospital chapel. You're going to place the 8 roses on the altar of Our Lady of Grace, and you're going to make an impossible request, just one. Don't ask for 8 things, ask for one impossible thing, and Mary will give you 8 favors in 8 days. It may not be the favor you asked for, but there'll be 8 favors. That will change everything." Catherine looked at Ashley as if she were crazy. 8 roses at 8 p.m. on the 8th. It sounded like superstition, but Ashley held Catherine's arm firmly and said, "I did this ritual in 1952. My husband was dying of cancer. The doctors gave him 3 weeks to live. I did the ritual of the 8 roses on November 8th at 8 p.m. I asked for his cure. You know what happened? In 8 days, he wasn't cured, but 8 things happened that prepared my soul for his passing. 8 favors that gave me peace, strength, acceptance, and hope. He died on the 9th day, but I was at peace, because the 8 favors Mary gave me were greater than the cure I asked for." Catherine remained silent. Then Ashley continued, "But there's more. A friend of mine did the ritual in 1954, asking for the conversion of her son, who was drowning in addiction. In 8 days, the son wasn't converted, but she received 8 signs that her son would be saved, and on the 10th day, her son knocked on her door, crying, begging for help. Today, he's a seminarian." Ashley looked deeply into Catherine's eyes and said, "Mary never fails, but she knows what you need better than you know yourself. Do the ritual. Trust." Catherine returned to her son's room. Joseph remained motionless, unresponsive, without hope. She held his cold hand and made her decision. The next day, November 8th, 1956, at 7:30 p.m., Catherine left the hospital and went to the nearest flower shop. She bought exactly 8 white roses. She asked the shop owner if the roses were fresh. He assured her that they had been picked that morning. Catherine paid, took the bouquet of 8 roses, and returned to the hospital. At precisely 8 p.m., Catherine entered the hospital chapel. It was empty, just her. And the Blessed Sacrament and the image of Our Lady of Grace beside the altar. Catherine knelt, placed the 8 white roses at the feet of the image of Mary, and then, with a broken heart, she made her impossible request. "Mother, I ask for my son's life. I ask that he wake up. I ask that he return to being the boy he was. This is my impossible request. But if the Lord has other plans, then I ask for 8 favors that prepare me to accept God's will." Catherine stayed there for 40 minutes. She prayed the entire rosary, cried a lot, and then she stood up, glanced one last time at the 8 white roses at the feet of Mary, and returned to her son's room. Nothing had changed. Joseph remained in a coma, but something within Catherine was different. For the first time in 6 days, she felt an unusual peace. It wasn't resignation, it was confidence. The next day, November 9th, the first day after the ritual, the first favor arrived. A new doctor arrived at the hospital. She specialized in brain trauma and was there on a temporary consultancy from Rome. She reviewed Joseph's scans and said something no other doctor had said. This type of hemorrhage has a recovery window of up to 12 days. Let's try an experimental protocol. The first favor, unexpected medical hope. November 10th, the second day after the ritual, the second favor. Catherine's parish priest, who didn't even know about the situation, appeared at the hospital. He said he had a dream with Our Lady, asking him to visit a mother who needed prayer. He went straight to Joseph's room, anointed the boy with the oil of the sick, and prayed for 30 minutes. Second favor, unexpected sacramental grace. November 11th, the third day, the third favor. Catherine's sister, with whom she had been feuding for 2 years over an inheritance, appeared at the hospital crying. She asked for forgiveness. She said she had a dream with their mother, who had already passed, telling her to seek out Catherine. The two hugged and made amends. Third favor, family reconciliation. November 12th, the fourth day, the fourth favor. Catherine had no money to pay the hospital bills. Her husband had passed away 3 years prior, and she lived by sewing. There was no way to pay for the costs of the experimental treatment. That day, an anonymous woman left an envelope at the hospital reception desk with enough money to cover 2 months of hospitalization. To this day, no one knows who it was. Fourth favor, unexpected financial provision. But there were still 4 favors to come, and Joseph remained in a coma. November 13th, the 5th day. Catherine was in her son's room when she smelled a perfume of roses. Strong, unmistakable, but there were no roses in the room. She looked at the window. It was closed. She looked at the hallway. No one had passed by with flowers. The perfume lasted exactly 3 minutes, and then it disappeared. Catherine knew instantly it was a sign from Padre Pio. She had never been to San Giovanni Rotondo. She had never seen Padre Pio personally, but she knew the stories of the perfume of roses. Fifth favor, mystical sign of divine presence. November 14th, the 6th day. Nothing changed in Joseph's condition, but Catherine woke up with an inner certainty. Her son was being cared for by Our Lady. It wasn't positive thinking, it was spiritual conviction. Sixth favor, supernatural faith in the valley of the shadow. November 15th, the 7th day. The doctor from Rome came to the room and said, "The exams show a slight reduction in brain swelling. It's still too early to be hopeful, but it's the first positive sign in 8 days. Seventh favor, first medical sign of improvement, and then the 8th day arrived. November 16th, 1956. At 8 o'clock in the morning, exactly 8 days after the ritual of the 8 roses, Catherine was praying the rosary beside her son when she heard a sound, a low moan. She looked at Joseph. His eyes moved, slowly, with difficulty. Joseph opened his eyes and looked at his mother and said one word, "Mom." 8th favor, the impossible miracle. Joseph woke up from the coma. It took 3 more weeks of intensive physical therapy, but he recovered completely. with no neurological after effects. The doctors called it an unexplainable recovery. Catherine called it a promise fulfilled. She wrote a letter to Padre Pio telling him everything, and Padre Pio responded. The letter is kept to this day in the Lombardi family home in Naples. In it, Padre Pio wrote, "Daughter, the 8 favors that Mary grants in the ritual of the 8 roses are not just material blessings. They are spiritual preparations. Mary prepares the soul to receive what it really needs. Sometimes it is the miracle we ask for. Sometimes it is the grace to accept God's will. But they are always 8 steps that bring us closer to heaven. Now, before I tell you how to perform the ritual of the 8 roses, you need to understand something. This ritual is not magic. It is not superstition. It is not an automatic guarantee that you will receive exactly what you asked for. Mary is not a genie in a lamp. She is a mother. And a mother gives what her child needs, not necessarily what her child wants. But there is something that Padre Pio revealed in 1960 that completely changes how we understand the ritual of the 8 roses. Something he told only to a small group of pilgrims in San Giovanni Rotondo. Something that is recorded in a letter that a Capuchin friar hid for decades. And that is exactly what I'm going to reveal to you now. Because without understanding this detail, the ritual loses half of its spiritual power. In March of 1960, a group of 8 pilgrims went to visit Padre Pio. 8 people. Once again, the number 8. There were 5 women and 3 men from different parts of Italy. All of them had performed the ritual of the 8 roses in November of 1959. And all of them wanted to thank Padre Pio personally because all 8 had received exactly 8 favors in the 8 days following the ritual. But one of the women, named Lucy, asked a question that changed everything. She asked, "Padre Pio, why the number 8? Why not 7 roses, which is the number of perfection? Why not 12, which is the number of the apostles?" Padre Pio looked at her with those deep eyes that seemed to see through the soul, and then he answered something that no one expected. He said, "The number 8 was not chosen by me. It was revealed by Our Lady in 1948. I was praying the rosary after Mass when I had a vision. I saw Mary descending from heaven with a blue cloak covered in stars. In her hands there was a bouquet of white roses. I counted the roses. There were 8. I asked, 'Mother, why 8?' And she answered, 'Because 8 is the number of the new beginning. 7 is the end of creation. 8 is the first day of the new creation. Christ resurrected on the 8th day, and on the 8th day, everything is renewed.' The 8 pilgrims remained silent. Then Padre Pio continued, 'But there's more. Mary told me that November 8th has a special meaning. November is the month of souls. It is the month in which the Church prays for the dead. But November 8th is the day when heaven and earth meet in a unique way. Because 8 days after All Saints' Day, which is November 1st, is the 8th day of the Communion of Saints. It is the day when the souls in purgatory intercede with more strength for the living. It is the day when the angels descend to collect the supplications, and it is the day when Mary has special authorization from Christ to grant impossible favors. One of the men in the group, named Anthony, asked, 'But Padre Pio, what about the time? Why does it have to be at 8 p.m.? Why can't it be in the morning or afternoon?' Padre Pio smiled and replied, 'Because 8 p.m. is 8 o'clock at night. Again, the number 8, but it has another meaning. At 8 p.m., the day is ending. But the night hasn't completely begun. It's the hour of transition, the hour between light and darkness. And it's in this hour of transition that prayers have the most power, because they symbolize the passage from the impossible to the possible, from despair to hope, from death to life. Ashley, the woman who had asked the first question, then dared to ask something even deeper. Padre, what if a person can't do the ritual exactly at 8 p.m. on November 8th? What if they're working or sick or traveling? Padre Pio grew serious and said, then they do it at another time. Our Lady isn't a prisoner of schedules, but they lose the power of the alignment. They lose the spiritual window. It's like a tide. High tide only happens at a certain moment. If you fish at high tide, you catch more fish. If you fish at low tide, you also catch some, but less. November 8th at 8 p.m. is the spiritual high tide of the year. It's when Our Lady's Sea of Graces is at its peak. Can you do the ritual on another day? Yes, but the force will not be the same. And then Padre Pio revealed the most important detail, the detail that changes everything. He said, but there's one condition. The 8 roses have to be white. They can't be any other color. White is purity. White is surrender. White is acceptance of God's will. When you place 8 white roses at Our Lady's feet, you are saying, Mother, I surrender everything. My impossible request, my will, my despair. I trust in you. And it is that surrender that opens the portal. One of the pilgrims asked, and do they have to be roses? Can't it be another flower? Padre Pio responded, the rose is the flower of Our Lady. Each Hail Mary you pray is a rose that you offer her. The rosary is a bouquet of spiritual roses. But in the ritual of the 8 roses, you offer physical roses to symbolize your material faith, your concrete surrender, your visible sacrifice, because you're going to spend money to buy those roses. And that gesture of spending to honor Our Lady is already the first favor you do for her, and she always repays it. Anthony, the man who had asked about the time, then asked the most important question of all. Padre Pio, what do we ask for? How do we ask? Is there a specific prayer? And that's when Padre Pio revealed the complete protocol for the ritual of the 8 roses. He said, you are going to listen to me carefully because I'm going to say this only once. And then you spread it to whoever needs it. Don't keep it to yourselves. This ritual was given by Our Lady to be shared, not hidden. First step, buy exactly 8 white roses on November 8th, preferably a few hours before 8 p.m. The roses need to be fresh. They can't be wilted or old, because you are offering the best to Our Lady, not the leftovers. If you can only buy wilted roses, then ask the florist to exchange them. Tell them it's for Our Lady. Any florist who has an ounce of faith will give you the best roses they have. Second step, at 8 p.m. on November 8th, go to a church, a chapel, or even a prayer room in your house, where there is an image or statue of Our Lady. It can be Our Lady of Grace, Our Lady of Guadalupe, Our Lady of Fatima, any invocation of Our Lady, because Our Lady is one. What matters is that you are in her presence. Third step, place the 8 roses at the feet of the image of Our Lady. Don't throw them. Place them with respect, with care, as if you were offering a gift to your own mother, because that's what you're doing. Arrange the roses so that they look beautiful. Our Lady doesn't demand aesthetic perfection, but she appreciates attention and care. The fourth step, kneel before Our Lady. If you can't kneel due to a health problem, then sit down. The important thing is not the position of the body, it's the position of the heart. And then be silent. Just look at Our Lady. Look at her face. Look at her eyes, and let her see your soul. Don't rush. Stay there for at least 5 minutes in silence. Let Our Lady enter your heart before you say anything. Fifth step. After the silence, pray 3 Hail Marys, slowly. paying attention to each word. Don't pray in a hurry. Each Hail Mary is a spiritual rose that you offer, and as you pray, lightly touch each physical rose that you placed at her feet. Touch the first rose as you pray the first Hail Mary. Touch the second rose as you pray the second Hail Mary, and so on until the 8th rose. 6th step. After the 3 Hail Marys, make your impossible request. Out loud or in silence, it doesn't matter, but be specific. Don't ask for 8 things. Ask for one impossible thing, the thing that seems furthest away, most difficult, most desperate. That request that you don't even have the courage to make because you think it's too impossible. That's the request you make. And finish by saying, "Mother, if this request is not God's will, then give me 8 favors that prepare me to accept what the Lord has planned for me. Thy will be done." 7th step, pray a complete rosary. 50 Hail Marys, 5 Our Fathers, 1 Apostles' Creed. Don't skip, don't abbreviate, pray the entire rosary, because each decade of the rosary is a deeper dive into the heart of Our Lady. And it is during this rosary that the portal opens. It is during this rosary that the souls in purgatory begin to intercede for you. It is during this rosary that the angels descend to collect your supplication. 8th step, after the rosary, give thanks. Even without having received it yet, give thanks as if you've already received it, because anticipatory gratitude is faith, and faith moves mountains. So say, "Mother, thank you for the 8 favors that I will receive in the next 8 days. Thank you for preparing me for what's to come. Thank you for never abandoning me. I trust in you." And then Padre Pio said something that none of the 8 pilgrims ever forgot. He said, "Now pay attention to this, because it's the most important secret. After doing the ritual, don't become obsessed with the 8 favors. Don't keep counting on your fingers, waiting for something extraordinary to happen each day. Because Our Lady's favors are sometimes so subtle that you only realize them later. Sometimes the favor is an inner peace that you didn't even know you needed. Sometimes the favor is an unexpected meeting with the right person. Sometimes the favor is a door that closes so that another can open. Live the next 8 days with your eyes open to divine providence. And on the 8th day, take a piece of paper and write down what the 8 favors were that you noticed. You will be surprised, Ashley asked. And the roses, what do we do with them after the ritual? Padre Pio replied, "Leave the roses there for 3 days. Let them wither naturally before Our Lady." This symbolizes that your life is withering, so that the life of Christ can spring forth in you. On the 3rd day, take the roses, bring them home, and bury them in the garden, or in a flower pot, or in the earth somewhere where other flowers can grow. The roses will turn into fertilizer, and from that fertilizer, new life will spring. That's symbolic. Dead roses generate new life. Your impossible request, even if it dies, will generate new life. Trust in this process. And then, one of the women in the group, a young woman named Abigail, asked timidly, "Padre, what if we don't have the money to buy 8 roses? What if we're very poor?" Padre Pio looked at her with tenderness and said, "My child, Mary isn't a mercenary. She doesn't charge fees. If you truly don't have money, then take 8 wildflowers, 8 daisies, 8 wild chrysanthemums, 8 flowers that God has scattered throughout nature freely. Our Lady will accept them with the same love. What matters isn't the price of the roses, it's the sacrifice of the heart. If you have money and choose not to spend it on Our Lady, that's meanness. But if you don't have money and offer what nature gives you freely, that's humility, and Mary prefers humility to ostentation." The 8 pilgrims left that conversation transformed, and each of them spread the ritual of the 8 roses wherever they went. Bethany returned to Boston and taught the ritual to the entire neighborhood. Abigail went to Chicago and taught it to the women of the parish. Anthony returned to Los Angeles and taught it to his work colleagues. And so, between 1960 and 1968, the year of Padre Pio's death, more than 300 people documented in writing that they had done the ritual of the 8 roses and received 8 favors in 8 days. But let me tell you the story of the man who owed 8 months' rent. His name was Michael Rossi. He was from Cleveland. He was 48 years old in November of 1962. Michael worked as a carpenter, but the workshop had gone bankrupt 6 months earlier. He was unemployed, without income, with a wife and 3 young children. He owed 8 months' rent to the landlord, and the landlord had already given him an eviction notice. Michael had until November 15th to leave the house or pay everything. Michael wasn't religious. He went to Mass only at Christmas and Easter, but his wife, Isabella, was devoted to Our Lady. And it was Isabella who had heard about the ritual of the 8 roses through a cousin who lived in Boston and had met Bethany, the pilgrim who was with Padre Pio. Isabella said to Michael, "Let's do this ritual. What do we have to lose?" Michael thought it was ridiculous. 8 roses, for what? He needed money at Knot Flowers, but Isabella insisted so much that Michael gave in. On November 8, 1962, at 7 p.m., Isabella took the savings she had kept in a glass jar. She had exactly enough to buy 8 white roses. She bought the roses, returned home, and at 8 p.m. dragged Michael to the parish church. Michael went unwillingly. He entered the church sulking. Isabella placed the 8 roses at the feet of the Virgin Mary, knelt down, and began to pray. Michael stood, arms crossed, looking at the ceiling. But when Isabella began to cry softly while praying, something inside Michael broke. He knelt down beside her, and for the first time in years, really prayed. Isabella made the impossible request. "Mother, I ask that the landlord give us 1 more month's grace, and that in that month a job appears for Michael. This is my impossible request, but if it's not God's will, then give me 8 favors that prepare me to leave the house with dignity and without despair." They prayed the entire rosary. Michael didn't even know how to pray the rosary properly, so he just repeated the words that Isabella said. When they finished, Michael looked at the 8 white roses at the feet of Our Lady and thought, "These flowers will wither and nothing will change." But he said nothing. He just got up, took Isabella's hand, and the 2 returned home in silence. The next day, November 9th, the first day after the ritual, Michael was sitting in the kitchen drinking coffee when there was a knock on the door. It was the landlord. Michael thought, "It's over. He's come to give the ultimatum." But the landlord said, "Michael, I know you're going through hard times. Last night I had a strange dream with my mother, who has already passed away. She told me to be patient with you. So I'm going to give you another month, until December 15th. If you don't pay by then, there's no way around it. I'll have to evict you. First favor, unexpected grace period, November 10th, 2nd day." Michael went out to look for work. He entered a new carpentry shop that had opened in the city. The owner was hiring. Michael was interviewed on the spot and was hired to start the next day. The salary was enough to pay the back rent in 3 months. Second favor, unexpected employment, November 11th. 3rd day, an aunt of Isabella's, who lived in another city and with whom she hadn't spoken for years, called saying that she had been thinking of her and wanted to send some financial help. She sent the equivalent of 1 month's rent. 3rd favor, unexpected financial provision, November 12th. 4th day, Michael's eldest son, who had had a chronic cough for 2 months, woke up cured. He simply stopped coughing. Isabella took him to the doctor to confirm. The doctor said that his lungs were clear. Fourth favor, unexpected healing. November 13th, 5th day. Michael was working in the carpentry shop when the company owner offered him an extra commission for each custom piece of furniture he made. This meant doubling his income. Fifth favor, multiplication of provision. November 14th, 6th day. Isabella was praying at home when she smelled a perfume of roses. Strong. Without explanation, she knew it was the sign of Padre Pio. Sixth favor, mystical confirmation. November 15th, 7th day. Michael's brother, with whom he had been fighting for 5 years over money borrowed and not returned, appeared at his house. He asked for forgiveness, returned the money with interest, and said that he had had a dream with their mother, already deceased, asking him to make peace with Michael. Seventh favor, family reconciliation. And on the 8th day, November 16th, 1962, Michael received his first salary in advance. The owner of the carpentry shop said that he was so satisfied with his work that he was going to pay half of his salary in advance. With this money, plus the aunt's help, plus the brother's money, Michael was able to pay 4 months back rent. He paid the other 4 in the following months with his salary. Eighth favor, quitting the impossible debt. Michael wrote a letter to Padre Pio telling him everything, and Padre Pio responded with a single phrase, "My child, Mary doesn't perform miracles. She orchestrates providence, and when you trust in her, providence multiplies." Mark never missed Mass again, and for the rest of his life, every November 8th, he bought 8 white roses and placed them at the feet of Our Lady, in gratitude. Now, let me tell you the third story. The woman who hadn't spoken to her own daughter in 8 years. Her name was Teresa Bianco. She was from Venice. She was 56 years old in November of 1965. Her daughter, Claire, had married a man that Teresa didn't approve of. A divorced man, older, with children from another marriage. Teresa said she would not accept that marriage. And when Claire married him anyway, Teresa cut off all contact. She didn't go to the wedding. She didn't visit her daughter. She didn't answer phone calls. 8 years of absolute silence. But Teresa was being eaten up inside. She couldn't sleep. Every night she dreamed about her daughter. She would wake up crying. She went to the doctor. He said it was depression. He prescribed medication, but the medication didn't heal the wound in her soul. Teresa knew she needed to forgive her daughter, but her pride was stronger, until a friend of hers, who had done the ritual of the 8 roses, told her about the 8 favors she had received and said, "Teresa, ask Mary to soften your heart." On November 8th, 1965, Teresa bought 8 white roses. She went to St. Mark's Basilica in Venice, placed the roses at the foot of the statue of Our Lady, and made her impossible request, "Mother, I ask for reconciliation with my daughter, but I can't forgive. My heart is hard, so I ask for 8 favors to break this pride and teach me to love again." In the following 8 days, Teresa received a dream with her own mother telling her to forgive, a sermon from the priest about the prodigal son, an unexpected meeting with Claire's mother-in-law, who spoke well of her son-in-law, an anonymous letter with verses about forgiveness, a child on the street who called her grandma, and that melted her heart, a mild illness that made her think about the fragility of life, an unexplainable fragrance of roses. And on the 8th day, an inner peace that made her get up, go to her daughter's house, knock on the door, and when Claire opened it, Teresa simply said, "Forgive me." They hugged and cried for an hour. 8 years of silence were healed in 8 days of favors. Teresa wrote to Padre Pio, "Padre, the 8 favors that Mary gave me didn't change my daughter. They changed me. And that's what made reconciliation possible." You've just heard 3 real stories. 3 different people, 3 impossible requests, 3 different results, but they all received exactly 8 favors in 8 days. And they all had their lives transformed by the ritual of the 8 roses. And now, I need to tell you something important. If you've made it this far in this video, if you've heard these stories, if something inside you is telling you that you need to do this ritual, then this is not a coincidence. Mary is calling you. She is saying, "My son, my daughter, I have 8 favors prepared for you, but you need to take the first step. You need to buy the 8 roses. You need to go to my feet. You need to trust." This channel exists to spread the revelations of Padre Pio that are being forgotten. Revelations like this one about the ritual of the 8 roses. And every video we make faces resistance, spiritual resistance. Because the enemy doesn't want you to know the paths of grace that Mary has opened. So if this video helped you, if you felt that this is for you, there is a way for you to become a guardian of these revelations. It's the super thanks, that golden heart down there. When you click on it, you are saying, "These truths cannot be forgotten. These revelations need to reach more souls." And you become part of this spiritual mission to keep Padre Pio's wisdom about Our Lady alive. Now let me explain how you're going to do the ritual of the 8 roses. Today is October 31st. There are 8 days left until November 8th. You have time to prepare. So write this down. First, set aside some time on November 8th. Block out 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. in your calendar. 2 hours. You'll need at least an hour and a half to do the complete ritual calmly. Don't do it in a hurry. If you do it quickly, you'll miss half the grace. Second, go to a flower shop on the 8th, preferably in the afternoon, and buy exactly 8 white roses. They don't have to be expensive roses. Simple roses are fine. What matters is that there are 8, white and fresh. If the florist asks what they're for, you can say it's for Our Lady and ask them to give you the best ones they have. Third, at 8 p.m. on November 8th, go to a church, chapel, or oratory. If you can't leave home, then do it in front of an image of Our Lady that you have at home. Mary is not tied to places. She is where the sincere heart seeks her. Fourth, place the 8 roses at the foot of the image of Mary, with care, with respect, as if you were offering a bouquet to your mother. Fifth, kneel down or sit down if you can't kneel, and be silent for 5 minutes. Just look at Mary. Let her see your soul. Sixth, pray 3 Hail Marys slowly, and touch each rose lightly as you pray. Seventh, make your impossible request, be specific, and end by saying, "Mother, if this request is not God's will, give me 8 favors that prepare me to accept what the Lord has planned for me." Eighth, pray a complete rosary, 50 Hail Marys, don't skip any. This is the moment when the portal opens. Ninth, give thanks, even without having received anything yet. Give thanks for the 8 favors you will receive in the next 8 days, and then live the next 8 days with your eyes open to providence. Write down in a notebook everything that happens unexpectedly, every encounter, every sign, every inner peace, every door that opens, every reconciliation, and on the 8th day, you'll look back and realize Mary fulfilled her promise. She gave me 8 favors. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever received an impossible grace from Our Lady? Have you ever had a request that seemed lost and Mary answered in an unexpected way? Write it in the comments. Tell your story, because testimonies strengthen the faith of those who are beginning to believe. And if you are going to do the ritual of the 8 roses on November 8th, write here, 8 roses. Just write that, because that way we'll know how many people are entering this stream of grace. And there's one more thing. Padre Pio said that after the ritual, on the 3rd day, you should take the 8 roses and bury them in the ground. Let them turn into fertilizer and plant something new there. It could be a new flower. It could be a seed, because dead roses generate new life, and your impossible request, even if it seems lifeless, it will generate new life. Trust in this process. Our Lady never fails. She simply works in ways that our limited minds don't always immediately understand. Pray, wait, and don't worry. These were the last words of Padre Pio before he passed away, and they apply perfectly to the ritual of the 8 roses. You pray, you wait 8 days, and you don't worry because Our Lady is taking care of everything. May Our Lady of Grace enfold you in her blue mantle. May the 8 favors reach you within the next 8 days. And may the impossible become possible through the powerful intercession of the Mother of God. Amen.